What's up everyone, it's your boy VenomousStare back with more StarCraft 2 action. This time we have a 2v2 on the map Sludge City. So on the top side of Sludge City we have the Terran player, and his ally, the Barcode Killa, which was an ID that the League of Legends player Faker used whenever he traveled to the North American region in Season 3 Worlds. On the red team, on the bottom side of Sludge City, we have the Out Now clan, the Zerg Savagewood and the Zerg A-Ramp. Both of them are fast expanding. Savagewood is going to take the gold. Sludge City is a cool, unique map in my opinion. Both players have a gold base to take as a natural. However, one of them is very easy to defend. It's a pocket base. The other one is down the slow ground. And the reason that I like Sludge City is because it's a map where you can legitimately do lots of different strategies. And what I mean by that is it has enough safe bases where you can macro and play legitimate long games, but it's not so large or so filled with ramps where you can't play aggressive. A good map will not necessarily be just as good for any strategy, like really generic and bland, but a good map will allow for more than one strategy to be played. For instance, the 2v2 map Shrines of Lazul is not a good map because the only strategy that can be played is cheese. You just simply cannot fast expand on this map. It is not possible. Is going to make a factory right by his reactored barrack, so potentially some Hellions. He's also started his expansion. Barcode Killa transfers his workers over to the gold. Another good feature about Sludge City is I like to park an Overlord right on this little corner sometimes, because you can see this front door, which is very powerful, because obviously you want to be able to always see the front door of your opponent as Zerg to see when they move out to attack. Savagewood clears out the probe. But if you park it up on this little high ground, Zerg's not really going to spread creep out up here. Terran's not really going to make buildings out up here. Protoss will make pylons out here sometimes, but it's a nice little scouting spot right here. One interesting thing to note about this map too is these towers. These towers are very strong and kind of control the center of the map, but there are a ton of outside bases on this map. So on this map I find that oftentimes it's better to take the outside bases. If you take this base, is awful to take. It's very easy to attack. You can cut off reinforcements by sieging up on this high ground, so stuff can't swing through from the right, and you're never really going to have stuff on the left. The first two Hellions come out for and A-Ramp and Savagewood are both making some lings. They're doing that thing that worried Zergs have to do whenever you see Hellions unexpectedly. Just hope to God there's no damage and make lings. But this is the problem with going in with only two Hellions, is you don't really have enough firepower to do anything. So even though brought his cutesy little SCV, it didn't work. He should have been producing Hellions 3 at a time constantly while he researched Blue Flame and reinforcing. You really can't get a lot done with two Hellions except for scouting. But he's making two more. His Blue Flame is on the way. It looks like he's going to go into full-blown mech here because he has another factory coming. You can usually tell whenever people are going to go mech or bio after a Hellion build because of what they choose to build after their second factory with Tech Lab that researches Blue Flame. If they go barracks, or if they go barracks and E-bays, then it's probably going to be bio, and they might mix in Blue Flame Hellions or potentially go into Thors or tanks. They can really do a lot if they go into bio mech. I think one thing that's underused is building, especially against Muta, building one Thor and then building a handful of Hellbats, because you already have Blue Flame, and it makes it very hard for Zerg to engage. They act in the same way that Marauders do, where if you're fighting a Baneling-based army, the Zerg player has to be very careful because they don't want to waste their banelings crashing into your high HP units. Keep in mind, of course, Hellbats are regarded as bio, so if you make Hellbats while you go bio, your medevacs will heal them, which makes it very hard for Zerglings to kill them. Barcode Killa is getting an observer, and Savagewood is starting to spread creep. He's going into Muta. Notice he's researching melee and carapace upgrades and attack upgrade for his Spire units, his air units for Zerg, the Mutalisk of course, and Baneling speed. A-Ramp has this belated gold base. Now it's interesting that he would delay that gold. As we see, this is the Overlord spot I was talking about. And look at that, Barcode Killa just doesn't see it. Like, why would you have anything out here? So this is a great little spot. Because look, I see what they have at the front door. So Savagewood can kind of keep an eye on what his opponent is producing. Immortal on the way, as well as +1 armor, and is continuing his mech play, making tanks and taking another base. Barcode Killa has started to expand out here, and Savagewood does see this. He has a Ling, and Savagewood is starting to run around with mutas here. Usually the most powerful time for mutas is when they initially pop, because your opponent will be least likely to have defense at that point. But the mech player has a turret, 2 turrets, and Widow Mines. He's incredibly well defended. Savagewood is going to run in, see the mine, and run away. He does lose 1 muta for his trouble. Meanwhile, A-Ramp is pushing creep down low, as well as moving an army. He's going Roach Ravager while Savagewood goes Muta. Savagewood has this base with some nice spine crawler coverage. This spot is nice to spine because people will often take these towers, but in a bizarre little way, whenever they attack you, the units just path straight down and miss this gold base. But in the late game, whenever you start spreading creep and they start scanning, they're not going to miss it. So it's nice to have a few spines right at this little choke right here. So especially against a Terran mech player, they'll try to run Hellions in. So you always want to have a few spines in your mineral line whenever your Terran opponent shows a tendency to go Blue Flame Hellion. A-Ramp needs to fix his upgrades there. There he goes, fixes them right on time. Hey, calm down. Mech units are being produced for Thors, of course, do extreme splash damage to air light units, so Savagewood is really not going to be able to do a whole lot in terms of harassing his Terran adversary. But he will try to pick off a Colossus here. Barcode Killer warps in some high temps and then 3 Archons. But Savagewood is going to escape, loses next to nothing. And that Colossus was important, because whenever you go Colossus off of 1 Robo, it does take a long time to make, even if you chrono it. So if you lose the initial ones, your opponent knows that you're going Colossus, and it's one of those, Colossus are kind of like tanks were in Wings of Liberty, Zerg versus Terran. You have to build them up as a steady count. You can't flood them out like Warp Gate units. It's a count of something you have to continue to make. So 1 Colossus comes out for Barcode Killer. 4 Thors are being made at once for who is at 170 supply. Meanwhile, Zerg infestation is spreading north. Savagewood is taking many bases. A-Ramp is also expanding a fair bit. Notice all this Overlord spread. This will prevent Warp Prism and Medevac shenanigans from going on. You always want to spread your Overlords as well as Zerg. Hive out for Savagewood. His +2 air upgrades are almost done. He's almost into Ultras. And he has the wonderful, wonderful Mind Control upgrade for Infestors on the way. Savagewood is making Lings. He's at 174 supply. And this mech army will be incredibly powerful if it gets sieged up on this high ground. So The blue team is joining forces here. They're going to try to coordinate an attack. Savagewood is at a weak point somewhat. His 3-3 is not done. His crackling is not done. His ultralisks are not out yet. He just got the ability to make them. And Savagewood is going. I'm going to turn it on slow-mo right away. And here we go. Tanks coming down. Mutalisks come in. Almost all die because there's so many Thors. Fungals going down into the majority of the Terran army. And force fields come down to try to prevent the Zerg from charging up the ramp. Infested Terran are going to come up onto the high ground and make sure that some damage gets sponged, but A-Ramp's forces are being depleted because of all the high damage units on this high ground like siege tanks and Thors. And A-Ramp really needed to throw a couple Ravager shots down onto those force fields. And he needs to be careful not to lose his army as he's trying to move everything. I'm going to kick it back up to faster. A-Ramp is trying to move everything back up into the main. This base, if you take it, almost always dies, and this is why your opponent can force an unfavorable fight for you here, and then just swing down and kill it. A-Ramp is going to try desperately to pick a Colossus off, but it's very hard to charge into Archons, especially Archons that have +3 attack on the way. This is another obnoxious thing about Sludge City, is once this base dies, this one can be sieged from this low ground. But Ultralisks are on the way for Savagewood. A-Ramp's going to try to run in. Savagewood doesn't have the energy for Fungal, but he does have Ultras. And Savagewood's going to run in here and help his Zerg brethren A-Ramp with Ultras. Ultras, of course, take a very long time to make. And Savagewood's 3-3 is almost done. And if we go to upgrades, the mech player does not have anywhere close to 7-3, which is what the Ultralisks are going to have very shortly. The mech player does have a decent little army, because usually whenever you play mech and lose your army, you're just destitute and don't have anything at home. He does have 8 tanks still, so that's not really going to do a whole lot, in my opinion. Savagewood morphing some banelings here, so potentially thinking he'll need to crack an army. A-Ramp does have the Roach speed upgrade, the Roach burrowed speed upgrade, the spines. So he really should burrow these weak roaches, because whenever you get this upgrade, it lets them move while they're burrowed. They have these little red spikes on their back and they regenerate health super quick. And Savagewood's going to be tempted to use Banes, and he will. Lots of High Templar coming out here as the Zerg army crushes forward, and they can gargle storms all day long. These Ultralisks are incredibly tanky. They're surging forward with Lings on the way. Savagewood has an absurd amount of income. GG's. Ultraling is being flooded for Savagewood. 3-3 roaches are never ending for A-Ramp. And the Zerg team played a nice little macro game. A-Ramp lost a fight here in conjunction with his ally, but they recovered. Ultras came out just in time, and that'll be the game. If you like StarCraft 2, subscribe for more. These Out Now boys are going to take this one.